Yep, there we go. Okay, so I'm going to share again. I'm not going to be able to let anyone in. I don't know if Deji is on the call. Please, can you help me let people in? Waiting in the lobby. Thank you. Okay, so very quickly first, let me just start by talking about JIRA and Azure board very briefly. You've already seen Azure board and you've seen what it looks like, and I'm sure that we're still, some of us, if not all of us, are still trying to get used to Azure board and the different features that we use on that board. Now with JIRA board as well, the two boards, they both provide a platform that helps teams to collaborate for software development. They're both used for that. They've got some similarities between them, but they've also got there are some different features as well. But they're both wonderful tools. They're both wonderful for development teams to manage, to track, and organize their projects. Yeah. So very quickly, so tonight, like I said, we will not be able to go through everything about JIRA, but I'm hoping that by the time we go through this session, you would have an understanding of basic features in JIRA, how to create your stories, your epics, and other things on JIRA, but that we will run through tonight as much as time permits us. So some of the things we'll look at is, of course, what is the JIRA board? I've just explained it briefly again on that, the step-by-step creation of a JIRA board, walk through some of the features of the board, creation of issues. So we will create some issues, epic stories. So on JIRA, on your Azure board, you have your epics, your features, and your stories, depending on the process that you select. So if you select like the Scrum process and Agile, I believe you'll have your product backlog items. If you select the basic process, I believe you would have your, I think that's called user stories. So you have that on Azure board. But on JIRA, epic, stories, tasks, bugs, they are all referred to as issues on JIRA. And then we'll look at assigning tickets in JIRA as well. So I'm going to share my JIRA board, but before I do that, this would also be in the recording, so you can always go back to it. So on JIRA, for you to create your JIRA board, of course, you go online and put in the URL, go on the JIRA platform, and then you will select start my free plan. So there's a free plan on JIRA if you want to use that one. You would get to a page where it would look like this, and you would be asked, I am experienced. If you're not experienced, you can click on the drop down and it would give you different options of what you can pick up. If you're not experienced, if it's a new team or you have basic knowledge or you have no knowledge, there are options there that you can select. Your team as well, there are options from the drop down that you can select as well, what you spend most of your time on as a team. And either you have a flexible schedule to finish your work or you have a tight schedule, things like that. You would have that drop down to make those different selections. And then you click on the next button, and that will take you to a page like this where you would need to enter the name of your project. Once you enter the name of your project, the key would automatically come up for you. So for something like coaching project, you would say like CP. So JIRA will just automatically bring that key up for you. Then you have the different templates as well. So with JIRA, we also have the Kanban, we have Scrum. Depending on what template that you want to use, you select the template. And if you want to change the template, maybe it's come up by default as Kanban and you want to select Scrum or something else, you can always click on Change Template and select whatever template that you want to use. And the same thing for the type as well. So you have the company managed type and the team, I believe it's a team managed one as well. So for whatever one comes up by default, if you decide to go for the other one, you can always change the type and click on Create Project. So you come up to here. So this is where you have the different. So you have Kanban, you have Scrum, you have bug tracking. So these are the templates that you would have, the project templates, and then you can select whichever templates that you decide to go with. So once you've made your selection, so in this instance, for this screenshot, I selected Scrum. So once you've made your selection, it brings you to a page like this. In this instance, like I said, with Scrum, it brought me up to this page. It gives me a description of what that is all about, the board and the different features that I can use it for. So this is a short screenshot that continues on this other page. So it also tells me what comes with Scrum, with the Scrum that I've selected. It gives me all the issue types. Like I said on JIRA, all of these are called, they're all categorized as issues. They call them issues on JIRA. So it shows me what it will look like, what comes with that particular template that I've selected. And then you can click on use template if you want to use that template. Yeah. And then once you've done that, it brings you to this page. Again, you can decide to change your template. Still gives you the option to change your template again if you want to, if you change your mind. But then here as well, it would ask you to choose a project type, team managed and company managed. So you would select. The difference between these two is that they have different features. So the company managed project type has a bit more advanced features than the team managed one. The company managed one is usually kind of like used with with enterprise. And let me go here. Yeah. So sort of like an enterprise level. So it has some sort of advanced features with it. You can see that it says comprehensive agile reporting, essential agile reporting, single active sprint, parallel sprints. So with the company managed one, you will get some advanced features that comes with it. For the team managed one, you will get essential features that comes with it. So for the slide that I missed, it just says the difference between a company managed and a team managed project in JIRA. So the company managed projects are set up and maintained by JIRA admins usually, and provide advanced configuration options and powerful features. The team managed projects are able to set up and maintained by anyone on the team with simplified configuration to get up and running quickly. So usually you would have the company managed one set up by like the JIRA admin within your organization, because that would have a bit more advanced functionality. With a free one as well, I know that I've selected company managed and it did work for me. But then just so that you know that there are the features that you get with each one of them are different. So once you've gone through that, you can now then create your project, because at this point, it would now tell you you've selected your template as Scrum and you've selected your project, your type as either team managed or as company managed, and still gives you that option to change your template or your type if you want. And then at this point, you create your project. Now, one thing I did was that at this point, it did ask me to choose access level. And I purposely intentionally did not choose it, because I wanted you to see that at this point, if you click on create project, it would not create the project until you select. It would highlight the access as red for you. So that means that you have to make sure that at least you select something from this drop down as well. Access level, do you want it to be limited, private, or open to everyone and anyone? So you select the access level that you want, and then you can go ahead and create your project. Once you click on create project, again, you would see this page, and it's just giving you options of saying that select some of the tools that you want to connect with on JIRA later on. You can select. It gives you the page that, you can invite your teammates as well, if you want to invite anyone at that point to your JIRA project. And then it brings you to the board on your project for JIRA. It creates your board for you, and then brings up the option if you want to take a tour or you want to explore by yourself later, blah, 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 blah. It brings that screen up for you. So those are so for the epics and labeling, I will come back to this last slide once I have gone on the board and gone through the board for you. So that was just to run us through very quickly, easy way to create your JIRA board. Now, having gone through all of the steps that I've just shown on my slide, I have created a project here. So I've got 3 projects on here, but I will be using this one to run through the board for us, to run through JIRA for us very quickly today. So once you come in, you will have your backlog, you would have your active sprint, and on Azure DevOps, you do have this left navigation panel as well with different features that you can use on Azure DevOps. Same thing with JIRA. We have our features on here as well that we can use in navigating around. Now, here you have your roadmap. So once you start creating your epics and your stories and everything, you can always use the roadmap functionality as well in mapping out your product, you know, how long, when do you want to complete what, and all of that. So you can use your product roadmap functionality on JIRA if you want to. And again, of course, we have our backlog as well. This is what the backlog looks on JIRA, but this will change the moment you start creating epics and features. Now, for this view right here, forget that you're seeing this here, this story that I created here. It would usually come up as blank, and you will now have to start creating your epics from, but it doesn't matter. It's just one story that I've created out of one epic. So this is what you will see anyway, without any story here. Then you have your active sprint, which is your sprint board on Azure DevOps. Now, this again as well, I would show you how I configured this, because by default, it just comes with to do, in progress, and done. It doesn't come with dev and QA. But how I configured the dev and QA, just the same way you configure your Azure board and you have your dev doing, dev done, QA doing, QA done, and all of that. You can also configure your JIRA board in the same way, however you want. And then you have your issues as well. So your issues is obviously, whatever issues you've created will come up on here. It's just like your, I think it's the work items and features that you have on Azure DevOps. All the issues that you've created will show on here. In this case, I've just got one epic and one story. I'll create another one so that you see how it's been created. So you have all of those in this view here. Depending on what you select here, it would show you open issues that are still open, the ones that are done, the ones you viewed recently, the ones that were reviewed recently. So different options here as well with the issues and features and the components as well. So we will just go through the basic ones. So you can see that there are a couple of other stuffs at the bottom there. But like I said, we can't go through everything today, but we'll go through the basic ones today. So I will start by also saying that once we start creating, once we start creating our epics and our stories, our issues, one thing I would do during this session is I would create and start a sprint so that you would see from the backlog view on JIRA, you can actually have visibility of your backlog and also have visibility of your sprint on the backlog as well. Sorry, I think there are people in the lobby. Yeah, and visibility of your sprint as well on one page in your backlog. So if you want to create epics, you would have your epics and you have versions here. But let's start with the epics. So to create your epics here, rather than how you see it on Azure DevOps, where you'll see it at the top at the backlog there, and you click on create epics or create work items and all of that, you would see on JIRA, you have your epics right here on the side. It's a panel on the side. When you click on that, it opens up this left side panel for you on JIRA. And then you click on create epic. And this is where you create your epic. Yeah. So I've created one epic already, but I'm going to create another epic. So if I'm going too fast, please feel free to let me know if I'm going too fast and you want me to slow down a bit. So this is the security epic that I created earlier on, and we will still come back to that, because what I'll try and do is I'll try and get us to create at least 2 or 3 epics. We'll create bugs, we'll create stories, and we create tasks and subtasks. And then we will create a sprint. We will start a sprint, and you will see what that looks like on the sprint board as well. So to create an epic, you click on once you've opened up the panel, you click on create epic. And what happens is it brings up this pop-up box on the screen for you. It has your project name. So let's say that, like I said, I have like 3 other projects on my JIRA board now. So let's say that I've come on this board and I've clicked here that I want to create an epic. And then I remember, no, actually, it's not this project I want to create an epic for. I can always select the project I want to create the epic for here and switch to that project to create my epic. And then here as well, it's by default, because I've said create epic, it said to me issue type epic. That's what I want to create. It said to me issue type epic. That's what I want to create. So what I can do again in that instance is, if I decide that I don't want to create an epic, and what I want to create is probably, let's say, I want to create a story or a bug or a task. All I have to do is click on this drop down and change and say, no, actually, I'm not creating an epic. What I want to create is a story. And it changes the view for me and allows me to create my story. But in this instance, what we want to create is an epic. So you click on that, and it's asking me for the epic name. Now you would notice that there are some fields on here that has the red asterisk. It would not let me go create anything if I don't complete those fields that has the asterisk. So let's say that I want to create an epic for payment. So I would put payment in there, and then the summary as well. It's mandatory. So I need to put a summary in there of the epic that I want to create. So I can just say, let's just say payment functionality. Let's just put payment functionality for the solution, sort of. Yeah, let's just do that. Yeah. Again, it's put the reporter there. The reporter is the person that is creating that issue. So for every issue you create, you're creating an epic, you're creating a story. If you're the one creating it, your name would automatically be there as the reporter. Now, before we leave this page, I've created my epic, the epic name and the summary. I can just click on create, and it would create my epic for me. But I'm going to create another epic and come back on this page to show us something else. So if I click on create, it should create my epic for me. And it's already saying to me that I've created another issue. And it's also saying to me here that my epic has been created. So that's fine. So we've created that epic. And then your epic that you've created will reflect, it would show on your left side navigation panel here. We will come back to all of this, hopefully before the end of the call. Now I'm going to minimize that one as well. And I want to create another epic. So you've seen what we did there. We did there. I created an epic, and then I came out of that box. And now I want to create an epic. I could have created like 5, 10 epics if I wanted before actually coming out of that box. So this is what I should have done if I know that at a particular point, I want to create a couple more epics. If I only wanted to create 1 or 2, or maybe I just wanted to create 1, and I feel like, no, I'll create the others later, I can do what I just did and create 1 epic. But if I'm thinking like, oh, I've got 5 epics that I need to create, then I could have just stayed on that page. I'm still creating an epic. And then I can give the other epic. Okay, actually, let me just give the other epic instructor. And then let me just say instructor's journey. And then I remember that I have another epic I want to create. So rather than clicking on create, coming out of this page, and then coming back in again to create another epic, I can just check this box here to say create another issue. Yeah, and you would see I'm still the reporter. So if I click on this box and I check it and say create another issue, what would happen is if I click on create now, instead of taking me out of this box, it's telling me I have created 1 issue, but I can still create more before I come out of here. So I'll click in here and I will say my next epic I want to create is students. Yeah, and I can just change that to students journey. Yeah, and then if I feel like I still want to create another epic again before leaving this page, I will leave this checked. I will not uncheck it, and I'll click on create. Yeah, and it would enable me create another epic, just the same way I've done this. But I don't want to create any other epic. I just want to come out of here and start doing something else. I can't think of any other epic right now that I want to create. So what I'll do in that instance is I would uncheck the box and I'll click on create. And it should have created those 2 epics for me back to back. So I have my instructor epic and I have my student epic created for me back to back. Okay, so that's us creating our epics. Oh, Oh, wow. Okay. so, so yeah, so sorry about that. So I've created two epics there, back to back. Okay. Little things before we move on. You would see that there are different color coding stuffs here. What are these? So these are just stuff that when I can decide to say I want to color code security a particular color, this epic another particular color. For the epic I created earlier on before the call security, you would see that that epic is showing in my backlog next to the story I created under that epic. So it's just color coding sort of for epic. So if I create a story under payments, the story would be in the backlog and it would have payment and the color coding for payment next to it as well. So what this again is issues. Like I said, we call epics, bugs, all of these issues on JIRA. So it's telling me that for this epic, I have one issue. And this is the one issue that I have, the registration story. If I create a bug under this epic, it would tell me I have two issues, which will be that story and the bug created. Those will be the two issues. If I have 10, 5 stories, 2 bugs, 3 tasks under this epic, it will tell me it would add the number together and tell me what I have as issues under this epic. Any issues created under this epic, once they get completed, it reflects here. How many have we completed? If we have 10 issues here and we've completed only 3, it would reflect here to say 3 completed. Unestimated. So it's telling me that I have 1 issue under this epic and that issue is not estimated. If I have 5 issues under this epic and we've only estimated 3, it would show here to say 2 unestimated and 3 estimated. Yeah, so that's what those ones there are. Now, I want to create a story. So I'm just trying to walk us through the basic things once you've come on JIRA. So at your place of work, if you're using JIRA, there's a possibility that there would be of course, there would be a JIRA administrator. Your JIRA administrator would probably have created the JIRA board. Yeah. And what you can do, for example, as Scrum Masters is, if you look at your JIRA board and it just has the to do in progress done, and you want to configure other columns there, depending on the permission that you have, you might not be able to if you don't have the permission to do so. But if you want to do so, you can ask to be given the permission to configure your board to suit the needs of your team. You can ask for that permission. And again, this would also be useful for Scrum Masters as well to understand how different issues are created on JIRA board and what this board looks like. For the BAs as well, for the QAs, for everyone, it is also important that we understand this basic JIRA functionality as well. Creating epics, creating what the view is like, how we create these things. It is also essential that we have an understanding of it as well. So we've created an epic, or we've created epics, 3 epics actually we've created. Now, let's create stories. I've created one story for security. Let me create another story for payments. Did please help with the lobby if you can? Thank you. So let's create another epic. Story for payments. So I've opened up payments and I want to create story. So 2 ways you can create stories. Let's create the first one under payments. I can click on create issue in Epic and it brings me here. Now, remember I clicked on create issue. There was nothing to specify what issue I wanted to create. It didn't say maybe bug or task. And it has brought me here. Yes, I want to create issue. It's brought me to the box where I can create my issue, the create issue box. Let's call it the create issue pop-up box. It's brought me here. And it's giving me story. So what if I didn't want to create a story and it was a bug I wanted to create? What could I have done? I would just click on this drop down and say, nope, I'm not creating a story. What I want to create is a bug and change the issue type. But in this instance, again, we're creating a story. So my story summary is, I would say, payment by debit card. So let's, for the purpose of this, let's call it that. Okay. Now, it's asking, I can put an attachment there. I can put my description there. So I can put my, whatever I want to put there. If I want to put my acceptance criteria, whatever, I can put it in there. This issue, linked issues, blocks. So of course, if there are any issues that is going, you want to link this particular one to, you can always use the different burn down options from there. So drop down, sorry, not burn down, drop down options from there. You have the assignee. So it said assign to me. So if I want to assign this to me, I can assign to me. Now for this board, I'm the only person on this board, unfortunately. But assuming I have like team members here, so I have maybe probably 8, 9 people also working on this board, I can always click here, yeah, and it would give me the names of everyone on this board, and I can decide, this is where you can assign for those that want to assign. If developers are assigning work to themselves, or maybe in this case, let's say I'm the BA and I'm working on the story, so I want to assign to myself. I would assign. So the assignee is the person that the ticket would be or is being assigned to. The reporter is that person that is creating the ticket. And then you have your priority again. So if you're using priority for your stories, you have your priority. You can select your medium, highest, high, low, lowest. I've seen JIRA boards that actually also has critical here as part of the drop down on the priority. That would probably, because of course I'm using the free version for this session, so that with the paid version, especially the ones that organizations are using, you would have a few more options and features on there. So this is what you have here for your priority, and then labels. We'll come to labels later. That's the slide I showed, the last slide that I showed, and I said I'll come back to that later on. And then the epic link, of course, it's payments, because we're creating this issue under payment epic. Again, if I decide to say that rather than coming out of this box, I want to create another story or another issue under this epic, I'll just check this box and I'll click on create. And then what I just need to do is just put the summary and say payment by, let's just say credit card. Yeah. And then the same thing again, I would assign to myself. So you will see the same thing there. So assignee. Yeah. So assuming I'm creating another story or another issue and I'm not assigning to myself, automatically, because I created the first one and assigned it to myself, it's left my name there. But this time around, I want to assign this to Deji. I will just click on there and I will assign to Deji. Yeah. And then again, you have all the priority and stuffs on there. So this time around, I'm not creating another story. I will uncheck the box and I'll click on create. So I should have 2 more stories under, I should have 2 stories now under payment. And you can see it's telling me that this is my backlog. I've got 3 issues in my backlog. Yeah. Now, we have created 3 stories and we've seen how we create stories. So I wouldn't go on and create stories for these other epics. I'll leave these other epics as they are. And let's work with the 3 stories that we've already created. So if I refresh my screen, the 2 stories for payment, you would see it's now reflecting on that payment, that we've got 2 issues and they're both not estimated. So let's leave that there. So we've created epics and we've created stories. Now, you would see again, the epics are there right next to each of the stories. And I did say that there is another way you can create your stories in the backlog as well. But when you create your story in the backlog, this is what happens. So if you want to create your story in the backlog, you can click here, create issue. And then you put your story in there. So let's put login. Let's put login in here. Type it in. I click on my enter button and that story is there in my backlog. But that story does not have an epic because I did not create that story under any of the epics here. But I want this story to be under security as an epic. Yeah, I'm going to create another one because there are 2 ways that I can actually link the stories to an epic. So I'm going to create another one without an epic, and then I will show us the 2 ways that you can actually link your epics, your stories to your epics. Give them the parent, like we call it on Azure board, that it doesn't have a parent. So right now, login doesn't have a parent. So I'm going to create another story, and then I will use each of them to show us the 2 different ways that I know that you can actually use to give these parentless stories parents. So for this one, I would just say email. Let me just leave that as email and click my enter button. So let's start with login. What we want to do now is we want to make sure that it's not looking nice. They don't have parents, no epics linked to this. So what we want to do is, what we want to do is we want to give this epic, apologies for that. We want to give login an epic. You can put your cursor on login. Don't click it, because once you click it, this is what happens. It opens up your ticket. But we don't want to open up the ticket. What we want to do is we want to assign an epic to this story first. So you can put your cursor on it, click down, hold down, and drag it to that epic that you want to assign it to, and drop it. Yeah? So once you drag and drop, it should assign it to that epic. So that's it. So it's gone under security because that's where I dragged and dropped it. The other way that you can actually assign epics, that you can link epics to your stories, is by opening the ticket up, open the story up. Once you open the story up, we'll come back to this bit. Once we open the story up, I would scroll down. And when I scroll down, I'm supposed to see epics, but I'm not seeing epics. But then, attention to detail, it's saying to me here that there are more fields, and I have a drop down here. Yeah? So when I click on that drop down, it's saying to me that I have more fields here, and I have my epic link there, but it's saying none. That's because it's got no epic. So I can click in here, and then I will have a drop down of all the epics that has been created. Yeah? And I want to link this up with security. So I can select security there, and it would give my story an epic. So those are the two ways that I know that you can actually link stories created in the backlog without epics, easily link them to an epic. Any questions at this point before I move on? No questions. Okay, so it's safe to carry on then. All right, cool. So we've created our epics. Now I'm going to open up one of the stories and show us what that looks like. So when you open up your stories, again, before I open up the stories, just an advice from me. For your tickets, when you're creating your stories, please, for the title on your stories, try not to write like 2, 3, 4 lines of sentences. It would just make it look here like it would make this look too long, and it won't look nice. Some people do it, but for me, I would prefer to put the title of my stories nice and brief, so that anyone comes in my backlog, they can see easily what that story is, what the title of that story is. Although if you put more sentences in there, more words in there, once you put your cursor on it, it brings it out. You can see it there. Please, can we all be muted, please? Thank you. It shows you what the title is, but it's nice to keep it short and sweet on the title when you're creating your stories. So I'm going to open one of the stories. So when you click on it, it opens up on the side. And I think that's one thing that I also like about JIRA, to say that you can actually work on your JIRA board and have a view of everything that you're working on within one page. Some people don't like it. Some people don't mind. Some people don't mind. So whilst we're doing this, again, another thing I can do is I can actually click on this to collapse the epic panel to give me enough more space to work in the backlog. Yeah. So when I click on registration, I open my registration up, and then I have it opened up on the side here. So in here, what I normally do is in here, it says hard description. Yeah. So in here, I would usually put my user story and I'll put my acceptance criteria. Yeah. What I used to do, and I corrected myself, which is why I noticed the difference and I preferred it this way. Because what I used to do was I would usually put my user story here and say, I want to show that. And you can imagine by the time I finish typing all of that in here, you can imagine what it would look like in the backlog. You will just be saying as a, I want to show that. That's all you'll be saying here. As a what? I want to do this so that, but it's, you know, it's better this view. I prefer it this way, to be honest. And then what I would usually do is in the description box, I'll put in my user story and my acceptance criteria in here. Yeah. So that's what I would usually do. So I'm not going to type everything in. I'll put out all of that in here. And then I'll put my acceptance criteria. Other BAs might work in different ways. It's easier, short and sweet. Same view for me or for the team. I put it on there and everyone has visibility of it. And once you're done, you click your save button and that's it. Yeah, you have your description in there. Yeah, and then we have unassigned. That's because this has not been assigned to anyone. Again, if that's the case, I'm the BA working on this, I'll assign to myself. Yeah, if we have time again, we'll come back to labels. If not, we can come back to that some other time. Story points. Now, within our estimation, this is where you put your story points. Yeah, so let's say we're estimating this ticket now in sprint planning, and everyone has agreed on 5 as a story point. I pop my 5 in there, or you can use your arrow as well. Yeah, I put it in there and I check that box, and that's my story point estimated. And you would see that it's also reflected in the backlog as well. I leave my priority. So if I change this priority, you can see they all have medium priority. If I change this priority now to highest, it would reflect in the backlog. So looking at this backlog again, I'm seeing this sign here. It's telling me that this ticket is highest priority. Yeah, so you can use that as well. You can configure that as well. And then you have your time tracking as well. We'll come back to all of that. Sprint, we haven't started a sprint. So if you start your sprint, it would also reflect here what sprint you're in. And then once you're working on the ticket, the developer has a comment or the QA wants to drop a comment or anyone wants to drop a comment, you drop your comment in the comment box and you click on your save button and that's it, it saves. Okay, again, at the top here, we have different functionalities as well that you can use. You have your Eclipse here that says add apps. You have your link issues, web pages, and more. If you want to link any issues or you want to link a web page, that's your link functionality. If you want to create a subtask, which we will do under this story, you can do that from here as well. And if you want to add an attachment, you have the functionality to add an attachment from there as well. Now, let's create a subtask and see what that looks like. So let's say you can also open this up properly if you want to. You can always click on there to open the ticket up a bit more. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, if you want to have a clearer visibility of the ticket, you can open it more like that. So, you know how you create your stories on Azure DevOps, and then you go on your sprint backlog, and then you create your task. The developers and the QAs create their task for each of the stories. You can also create your task from here. Yeah, we call it the subtask. So when you click on create subtask, it's asking you what needs to be done. So this is, I believe this is the registration story. So what needs to be done is, let me just say let me just say create. Let me just use this for the sake of this, for the purpose of this. Yeah, and then you click on create. Yeah, it's you get that. It's giving it a number, and that's the subtask sort of like colors symbol thing. Yeah, and then it said to do. You can create another one if you want. It would still let you create more tasks. Yeah, so if you want to say maybe for this one, let's say the QA's put manual test. Yeah, click on create, it creates it. It's asking you to create more if you want to. So that's how you create your subtask. Yeah, so again, let's go back to the backlog. Let's go back to the backlog. Let's also estimate this because, like I said, I want you to also see what it would look like on the sprint board as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually also give this a story point so that whatever we're taking into sprint has story points. I'll give that a story point as well. And you would see that the ones that are not assigned to anyone yet does not have any initials. So if I assign this to anyone, it would have the person's initials. So in your backlog, you would all, like on your ticket, you have your visibility of your story, the epic, who the ticket has been assigned to, the ticket number, the priority, the estimate. So again, I would just assign this to myself because I'm working in silo, which I shouldn't be on this board. And yeah, let's do that for another ticket, and then we would have 3 tickets that we want to take in. So let's just do debit card. Again, if you want to do it from here without opening your ticket, you can also do it there if you want to. So let's just give this a story point of 5 as well. And that's that. So what we've done is we've created epics, we've created stories, and we've linked the epics to, we've linked stories to epics 2 different ways. We've assigned and we've estimated as well, and we've created subtasks as well. Now, again, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to create a sprint. So let's just start from all these basic things, the things that you're already doing. What I'm trying to do again is the stuff that you're already doing on your Azure board. I want to try and touch on them on JIRA board so that you see what you're doing now, how it's also done on JIRA board. So I don't want to take us off course completely so that we don't get confused or lost in any way. So you can just see the similarities and the difference between the two. So right now on Azure, you're creating epics, you're creating stories, you're starting sprints, you're creating tasks, and you're estimating. And that's the same thing we're doing now on JIRA board as well. So we have these 3, and I'm going to create a sprint now for us to see what that would look like on JIRA. So once you have your backlog here, yeah, normally, let's say we're doing our refinement now, and we want to prioritize these stories. During refinement, you're doing your refinement in your backlog. You have all of these stories here. What you can do is, we want to prioritize registration login as for the next sprint. You can always do a refinement session. If your refinement is not on the same day as your sprint planning, usually, which is what we do, our refinement is not the same day as our sprint planning. So once we're doing our refinement, so we're prioritizing tickets. You just put your cursor on it. Oh, it's easily clicked on, but we don't want to click on it. Put your cursor on it, hold down the button, and just drag it up to where you want it and drop it. Yeah. So we're actually prioritizing these 3 tickets so they stay at the top. So if it's 5, 10 tickets we're prioritizing, we drag them to the top. That's what we do on my team during refinement when we're prioritizing tickets, for the next sprint starting the following week. So we drag them to the top. Now, once we've done that now, so let's say we're now on the sprint planning day, we've done our sprint planning, we've looked at the prioritized tickets, and we're so happy the PO is also still happy for us to take them into sprint. Nothing has changed. Those are still ticket prioritized for sprint. And we've done our estimation as well. Now we can click on create sprint to start our sprint. Yeah. Now that I've clicked on create sprint, it has opened up this other box at the top of the backlog. Same page. It hasn't taken me away from this page. Same page at the top of the backlog. Yeah, it has created that sprint, and it's saying to me sprint 1, 0 issues, meaning that we haven't committed anything into this sprint yet. Yeah. Now, what you can do now is we want to now commit tickets into sprint. 2 ways again that you can do this. I want to commit this into sprint. So let's say you have a very long backlog. Yeah, you have lots of stories in the backlog, and you've said you're committing like 10 stories, or and you have your sprint at the top here. So you don't want to keep clicking on and dragging. So the clicking on and dragging is this. You put your cursor on it, click down, and you drag it in here, and you drop it. You've committed that into sprint. That's in sprint. Yeah. The other way that you can do that is we're taking this into sprint, put your cursor on it, right click, and then click on the sprint that you want to put it. Yeah. So let's say that again, you have a very long list in your backlog. Now, let me put this here. So let's say you have a very long list in your backlog, right? And you want to move things to the top of the backlog. You know, when you have a very long list, you don't want to keep holding and dragging all the way to the top. So you want to push something to the top of your backlog. Again, you can just right click, and just say, take this to the top of the backlog for me. And it moves it to the top of the backlog for you. So now we want to take this as well into Sprint. So I'm just going to drag that into Sprint because I don't have a long backlog, so I can easily drag. You know, it's easy for me to drag. That's fine. So we've taken these three issues into Sprint, and then we're all happy with what is in Sprint. Capacity-wise, everything, we've discussed all of that. We've estimated, everyone is happy, and we're happy to start the sprint. Now, you have the Start Sprint button highlighted for me here. When I click on the Start Sprint, it gives me this pop-up box. Yeah, it's giving me the sprint name. It's saying 2 weeks duration, 2 weekly sprint. I can always change that. If our sprint is 1 week, I can change. If it's 3 weeks, I can change. If it's 4 weeks, I can change. And if it's custom, which is, okay, we want to be putting in the data, so we can do that. So I'll leave this as 2 weeks. And it's saying 30th of May to what date? So the 2 weeks will be 30th of May to when? Okay, this is where I need someone to check the calendar for me. When will 2 weeks end? So we have 30th of May till, I think it's actually giving it to me. 13th, actually, yeah. So see, that's it. So it's giving me 13th of June. And then I can put my sprint goal in here as well to say that my sprint goal is registration. Let's say registration. So what are we working on? Registration now. So we're saying we're working on the submit button and log in. I think we took in payment as well. Submit button, registration submit button, login, and we also have payment, debit card payment. So let's put that as what we have taken into sprint to work on in sprint. Yeah, and it's told me we have 10 working days in this sprint. And then I will click on the start button, and that is my sprint started. And you can see that it's taking me to the sprint board. It's brought me to my sprint board. Yeah, the 3 tickets. So something I'm going to show us here is the 3 tickets that we've taken into sprint were registration, payment by debit card, and login. But you remember that we created subtask for registration, but we didn't create any subtask yet for payment by debit card and for login as well. And that is why you would see that registration here has these 2 subtasks underneath it, because the 2 subtasks were created under registration. Yeah. And then all of these tasks created is what we can start moving. As we're working on it, we start moving. This is in dev. Then we start moving this one as well. Then maybe but maybe they also have a subtask and they're just moving the ticket. You can move the ticket as well. It's okay. It's fine. You know, you start moving your ticket. Now, I'm just going to move these 2 tickets to done just to show us one thing. So let's move those to done. Now it's saying to me that all the subtasks for the parent issue of this number are now done. Do you want to update this parent issue to match? Now, if I click on update, what it's going to do is these 2 subtasks are done, and I'm saying yes, update the parent issue as done. It would then say this ticket is done. Now, let's say I'm the developer and I'm the only one that has created subtask for this issue. And I've moved all my subtasks to done, but the QA still needs to work on it. I will not click on update here, because if I click on update here, it would update this ticket as done. But the QA still needs to create their own task as well to work on it. So I can just click on cancel to say, no, I'm not updating this story as done. Do you get what I mean? But if I click on updating it as done, then this is what would happen. So let's say I do this. Yeah, and then let's say I now move this to done. It gives me this. Now let's say the developers have completed the development and I'm a QA and I've just completed all my work on this ticket as well. I can say there's nothing more to do on this ticket. UAT has been done. QA, everyone has completed what needs to be done. It's passed all the different processes and steps. I can click on update and then I can click on update. I hope this is not messing up again now. Yep. And then it's updated it as done as well. So you would see that the status of that story has also changed to done. So that's that one. And let's go back to the backlog. And again, okay, so you can see that even the registration is, the story is reflecting here as done, that it's been completed as well. So once it's been completed on the sprint board, you would see this line across it to reflect that it's been completed, it's been done. And the active sprint is where you have your board, your sprint board. For your sprint board, again, like I did say earlier on, that oh, of course, and at the top here, remember the sprint goal that we entered. It's at the top here, at the top of your sprint board, of your sprint backlog here, your sprint board rather, sorry. It's at the top of your sprint board here, and it's telling you 9 days remaining. So once you come to the end of your sprint, you can always use the complete sprint. Once you click on complete sprint, it will take you to your reports. But that's the report side of things is for another day. Like I said, you can't learn everything on JIRA in one day, in one session. It will take practice from you as well, just like your Azure board. But these are just the basic things that I thought, it would be nice to show us on JIRA for us to at least have somewhere to start practicing with. With the sprint board, let's say that I want to configure this board. So like I said, by default, you would have your to-do, in progress, and done. But you want to configure it. So let's say I feel like, okay, I have the dev and QA, which I did put there myself, but I want a UAT column. Yeah. So what I can do is I would come on the 3 dots here and go on my board settings. When I come on my board settings, I have all of these different settings here. So I have my, just like you have on your Azure DevOps as well, when you go on the settings wheel on your board there, you have your general column, swim lanes, quick filter, card colors, layout, estimation, lots of different settings that you can work with here. But I want to work on the columns setting. Yeah. So I click on columns there. And then it shows me this. If I click on something else, it will bring something else out. Yeah. But what I want is a column. So I click on columns and it gives me this view of what I already have. Then I go on add column. Yeah. Now, what's the column name that I want to add? It's I want a UAT column, and I want the category to be in progress because we're still working on the ticket even when it's in UAT. And then I click on add, and it adds my UAT ticket for me. Now, let's say that when I configured it, let's say it brought my UAT ticket here. I can always move things around to say, no, the QA needs to test before it goes to UAT. So once you put your cursor on it, you can always move around to rearrange. Yeah, so you have that. So if I go back to board from here, I should have my UAT column on the board. So that's how you configure your board on JIRA. Yeah, so I think because of time. Okay, so let me just quickly show us this as well. We wouldn't have anything on here yet, but where you have your burn up chart, burn down charts, where you have on your dashboard on Azure DevOps, where you configure your dashboard and do all of that. This is the view on JIRA where you would have all your different widgets as well. So you have your burn up, burn down, your sprint report, velocity chart, CFD chart, version report, epic report, control report, epic burn down, see release burn down. You have all of these metrics, as well on your JIRA. So, if I click on this now, it would show me, of course, we haven't completed the sprints yet. So that's what I have right now on my burn down chart. So you can see again, it has a report here. And there's a way that you can actually export this report as well, which I've done before, but I'm not going to go into, I don't want to, overwhelm us with too much today. Do you get what I mean? So you can see that this one is saying to us that at this time on this day, this particular issue was completed. And that was the story that we moved to done. Yeah, so it gives us all the details of everything. So any action you carry out on your ticket, on your sprint board, it would tell you the story, not just with a chart here, not just with a burn down chart, but also analyze it for you at the bottom here as well. So it does that, and again, you have your, no, we're not deleting sprint, sorry. Yeah, so you have different ways that you can actually, there's a way that you can actually also export this into CSV file, but we can look at that some other day, sorry. So that's your reports, yeah, on JIRA. That takes you to your dashboard sort of that you have on Azure DevOps, where you have your burn-up chart, burn-down chart, and all of that. So any questions at this point? So we've gone through how you create your own project on JIRA, how you create epics, how you create stories, subtask, estimation, assigning stories. What else have we done? I think we've done a couple of stuff. So they created a sprint, move tickets to done in 1 day within 5 seconds, which is not possible. But for the purpose of this session, we've done that just so that we see what happens to a ticket that has subtask underneath it and what happens when you move the subtask to done. You would have people that will move, developers will move their subtask to done, and then that pop-up box will come and they will say update and they will close that issue. Of course, again, you can still redo it, but then QAs are still going to work on it. It's going to go through UAT. So of course, you don't want to close the entire story when your team members are still working on it. So that is that. And of course, I've shown us the roadmap, even though we didn't go into detail, but you will see that even on the roadmap, we have our epic and it's telling us already, in progress 1 or 2. So this is like, very briefly, we have under payment functionality, we have 2 issues, and it's telling us that one of the 2 issues, sorry about that. Yeah. So it's tracking the work for us. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And always set this as well to, change the movement. Like you want to say that, no, this one, we should work on this or complete it by this time. You can drag things around on how you want to work and complete on things, and, just create and configure your roadmap to how you want it to work. So that is that. Let me take questions now so that I don't wear us down with too much information. I was going to talk about, so I think this will be too much information as well, really, but I was going to talk about labels, labels as well tonight, and the difference between, because initially when I first came across labels, I was thinking to myself, what's the difference between labels and epics? But of course, we use labels at work as well. There is a difference. They're not the same thing, but you just need to have an understanding of what labels are used for and how they're used and why why we use them, for you to understand again that they're not the same thing as epics. So if we by any chance come together again to go through JIRA, we can actually just look at labels as one of the things that we'll look at. And one thing that I would also do is I'll try and create more stories on this board and move them in sprints, move them around and see what our burn down charts would look like and how we read our burn down charts on JIRA as well. What your burn down chart looks like on JIRA at the completion of a sprint and how you read the burn down charts. So we can look at that and look at labeling as well, probably during another session. But I think for tonight, we've done quite a couple of stuff that I think for anyone going away from this call tonight and creating their own JIRA board, I think the first thing you want to do is try and create your own JIRA board. Then create an epic, create your stories, assign, estimate, link to epics, things like that. So Scrum Masters, if you're seeing stories on your board or your backlog that are not linked to epics, if you call the attention of your team member to it, to say, oh, this is not linked to an epic or whatever, whatever happens. If they come around and say, oh, I don't know how to do that, as a Scrum Master, you can easily just show them because you already know how to do it. But then remember that what you don't practice sort of like can easily fly out. So create your own project. There's a free version. This is a free version I'm using. So create your own project. Follow the steps that I started with earlier on. Create your own project on JIRA and create your epic, create your stories, move things around and practice a bit on the board. At least start with that basic understanding of how JIRA works, and then we can take it on from there. Any questions? I can see someone's hand is up. 1 second, let me stop sharing. 1 second. Florence. Hi, Florence. Florence, you have your hands up. You can unmute.
Okay, just unmuted. Okay, hello.
Yeah, hi.
Okay, yeah, I have 2 questions. The first one is when you were creating the epic, and then you said creating the epic, and then maybe one realizes that you wanted to change it to task. You were meant to do task or bug, raising a bug or something. Yeah, but when you were doing the correction, what happens at the top? Because I saw that didn't change, where it says create epic, that didn't change. So if we happen to change the other field, how do we change the one on top, even though it says create epic?
Okay, let me share my screen again so that you can walk through what it is.
That's one. Then the second one is like on the board for Azure, we normally have a QA in-dev, dev done. In this case, we only have one column for each role.
You can create as many columns as you want, as agreed with him.
Okay.
Yeah, but on JIRA, for me personally, I don't like creating columns that would just drag on forever. Do you get what I mean? So yeah, so like if I'm doing sprint planning or I'm doing daily stand-up with my team and I'm sharing my screen, we have this view, so I don't have to keep scrolling up and down, on Azure DevOps, of course, again, if you're doing your sprint planning, or your daily, let's say you're doing your daily stand-up, you would usually do it, I would expect that you would usually do it from your sprint board, where the team members have created their task that they're working on a daily basis, and they're moving those tasks across the sprint board. Do you get what I mean? And on that sprint board, it's not like a massive long board with different columns. It's one view at a point. So for me, if it's not necessary, there's no point. Do you understand? If you don't need to make things complicated, you don't need to make things complicated. And to be honest with you, even on this board as it is, I normally would not even have the in progress. Or if I have the in progress, I will remove dev. Do you get what I mean? Because if the ticket has already been committed to sprint here, we're moving it into progress. Who is working on it here? Is it the BAs? Okay, maybe the BAs working on it here when it's already in sprint. They should be working outside the sprint anyway. Do you get what I mean? So on my own JIRA board at work, we don't even have dev column. Yeah, what we have is we have to do in progress, we have review QA, we have UAT, and we have done. So whatever ticket is in progress is a ticket that the developer is working on. And once the developer is done, they move it to QA. So it's how you want to configure your board, as long as it's configuration that is understood by the entire team members and everyone is happy with the process on your board. Yeah, okay. Yeah. So I'll go back to the backlog so you can explain to me the first question. Okay.
Yes, when you said creating epics, create epics, and then maybe after clicking on that, and then I realized, oh, actually, I wanted to. It wasn't epic that I meant, and then I changed it to maybe story or task, and then what now happens? Because I already clicked on create epic at the beginning. So how do I change it? That one.
Okay. All right. So let's do something now. So I've clicked on create epic. Yeah. So let's do this together and see what happens. So I want to create a story instead, and I give my story available courses. Yeah. Okay. Let me create that story and let's see what happens. So what has happened? That story has been created as a story in my backlog, not as an epic. Because even though I clicked on create epic, I already changed the issue type. You get what I mean? So I created an epic. So it's just giving me that opportunity to change if that, you know, if Epic is not what I'm creating. I'm already here. Do you get what I mean? So I want to create a story. I'm already here, and then I remember, oh, it's not an Epic I want to create. It's a story I want to create. Yeah. So JIRA is giving me that opportunity to, rather than now cancel and then go back in the backlog to do what I want to do, I might as well just continue on this page here and do what I want to do. So I can just say, if I'm creating a bug now, if it's a bug I want to create, I'll just say missing button. Let me just put that there. Yeah. And I click on create. It will create the bug for me and it will put it in my backlog. It wouldn't create it as an epic here because the system has identified that I have changed the issue type from epic to something else. Yeah.
Okay.
Cool. Thanks, Florence.
Then another thing that I heard is that on JIRA, bugs are done differently from Azure. So I don't know how that is.
Sorry, bugs are done differently from Azure.
Yeah, so I don't know. I don't know how that is done.
Okay.
Yeah, based on your experience, what would you say?
Okay, so let me just, okay, maybe I should just leave my screen on share for now. 1 second. So we created, number one, when bugs are created on our JIRA board, yeah, what would happen is, this is a bug that has been created. Yeah, if you open up this bug ticket now, you would have the same things that you have on your on your story. Yeah, you have your description, which you can put in there for the bug environment. You have your unassigned, you can assign the bug to whoever is going to fix the bug, and you have all these fields as well. Yeah, and I know that it is also being tracked. And if at work, we also have this kind of like program level board that we use as well. Do you get what I mean? So of course the QAs create their bugs and they work on their bugs and move their whatever or however they do that, they whatever they do within the ticket, I don't interfere with that. But you create your bug ticket, and you put the details of that bug in the ticket. You open the ticket and you put the details of that bug in the ticket. If you want to link anything with it, any issues or web page, you can do so. If you want to attach anything to it, you can attach anything you want to attach to it. So you're creating it as a ticket, like you will create it as a ticket as you create your bug as well on Azure DevOps. But any other functionality that goes into that ticket, I don't work on it as a QA. But I know that there's a bug that has been found. Raise a ticket, create your issue, create it as an issue. Do you get what I mean? Create the bug as an issue in the backlog or on the board for us to work on as for whoever needs to pick it up.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other question or questions?
Where can we get this recording from, please? Or where is this recording saved, please?
Okay, so this recording is going to be on the Teams channel, the Uni Intense Teams channel. But I know that we have other guys from the advanced platform join us on this call today as well. So what I would try and do is try and download the recording. Fingers crossed, I'm able to do that. Download and share on the platform as well. If I'm not able to do that, Ben, what I can do is I've done a JIRA session with the Scrum Masters before, and there's a recording of that I did on Zoom. I've shared it on the platform before, but I can reshare again for you. So it's similar to what we've done.
Yeah, that would be great. Thank you.
All right, cool. Thank you. Do we have any other questions or question? No? All right, cool. So I'm going to stop the recording now.